Well, welcome to today's webinar. We got 10 tips for success when meeting planning isn't your job title. And so welcome all of you for joining us. My name is Shimo with DMAI, that's Destination Marketing Association International. And DMAI is the trade association for Convention and Visitors Bureaus, and empowerMINT.com is the web portal where you can find all of the best CVBs in one location. And CVBs are known to help you find the best fit for your meeting, no matter where you're headed. And facilitating today's discussion is Terry Roberts. And Terry Roberts manages training for DMAI's empowerMINT.com. So welcome, Terry.
Morning, Shimo. Morning, everyone.
And we're really happy to have with us a couple of experts. First, I'd like to introduce Charlie Spiegel, and Charlie is currently Director of Sales for the Monterey County CVB. And Charlie, you've also served as Director of Membership for MPI, Meeting Professionals International, where you were responsible for managing an international staff that were key in recruitment, engagement, and retention of their global membership. So it's really great to have you, Charlie, so welcome.
Thank you, Shimo. Thank you, everybody else, for joining.
And also, our not really a full-time meeting planner, co-host we'll have is Scott Lash. Welcome, Scott.
Well, hi. Thank you for joining in. Glad to be here.
Well, you know, Scott, and you have quite the title here, Certified Experience Economy Expert, Partner, and Marketing Director for Strategic Horizons. And maybe you can kind of give us a little insight as to what that role is all about there at Strategic Horizons.
Sure. The Partner and Marketing Director are pretty self-explanatory. The Certified Experience Economy Expert is a week-long course that I took to get training in methodologies, models, and frameworks to understand how to create an engaging experience throughout our marketing programs, which include things like meetings and events. And it's really become kind of foundational to how we design and approach our learning encounters and events.
Well, thank you very, very much, Scott. And you are like a lot of the attendees that we have on our webinar today, and we didn't realize how popular this topic would be with our meeting planning audience, because we've had probably over 400 folks register for today's webinar. And I think it really speaks to the fact that we are all playing a lot of different roles, and many, many times meeting planning is part of our roles, but isn't exactly our job title. So when it isn't exactly your job title, it's maybe something that we're not doing all the time. And so we'd like to just kind of get a sense for the audience today and just kind of get an understanding of how many meetings are you actually responsible for planning in 2012. So for those of you that are participating in our webinar today, go ahead and vote. And as you're voting, I'd like to ask Scott. Scott, you know, meeting planning isn't your full-time responsibility, so how many are you planning in 2012?
Yeah, it can feel like it sometimes, but 6 to 10 is probably the closest approximation. Everything from a 1- and 2-day client events to the week-long training classes, and even one-off sessions.
Oh, great. And some of the folks in the audience today, they're representing a lot of corporations. We've got folks from Coca-Cola, from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Wells Fargo, and they've got a lot of different roles like operations manager, purchasing agent, executive assistant. And then we also have those of you who are, in fact, meeting professionals for your company or association. And we also have the folks with our third parties, Helms Briscoe, Conference Direct. So thank you very, very much for joining us. So let's see what our audience is up to. So there are a good majority of you that are planning 6 or more meetings a year. So over 50% of you are handling more than 6. 12% of you just have one meeting. So that kind of gives you an idea, Charlie and Terry and Scott, about who we have here today. And one note is that this webinar is being sponsored by Meetings app, and I know, Tracy, you're with us today from ePro Direct, and we really want to thank you for your sponsorship of today's webinar. And Meetings app is something that we'll talk about at the end of our webinar, so everyone please stay tuned. A couple of things you can kind of, a lot of you have already discovered your question box, so please feel free to send over a question if you have one, and we'll try to get to those by the end of today's webinar. So we only have 30 minutes, Terry, so let's get right in today's topic.
Great, Shimo. I think that, when we thought about this topic, it sort of came out of that expression that many people have when they start to plan a meeting when that's not their primary job responsibility, and that's, really, whose job is this anyway? And I think few tasks are really as daunting, perhaps, or as overwhelming to, a marketing guy or a sales guy or, an executive assistant who gets handed a meeting, and you don't have that entire staff in tow that's going to help you. And so if you're a novice planner or if you are an infrequent meeting planner, really the key to successful meetings lies probably first, I think, in sort of doing some internal homework, and we're going to talk about that. Like, what do you, it's sort of like getting your act together and taking it on the road. So what do you need to know before you head out? And then we're going to share with you a couple of industry-approved resources that we hope will aid your planning. And then we hope to spend some time really helping you understand how Cbeebies and the destinations that you are considering act as your advocates. So we'll turn to Scott and to Charlie to say, all right, so now somebody's handed me this meeting, and I know that it is tempting to say, all right, what are the dates and how many, sleeping rooms do I need, and how much, how much guest or banquet facility space do I need, and then you head out. But we'd like to kind of frame this up around the 5 W's. So I will ask Scott to start off by what is around the why. Why is it, what do you need to first understand about the reason for your meeting, Scott?
Yeah, this is a foundational question to everything that you're going to do. It's going to inform all your decisions down the road, to understand why you're being asked to, to host or to plan this meeting. If, for example, if you're asked to plan a meeting with a bunch of finance directors who are going to be there to discuss how they can avoid, layoffs for the next quarter because sales are down, that's a distinctly different type of an environment, and it's a different type of why than if you've been asked to plan a sales executive retreat or a reward trip for, some of your top producers that have had a great year. So getting to the why is really fundamental to informing everything that you're going to do. And I know, Charlie, those are probably some of the questions that you try to drive to when you're looking for answers about how you can help clients who come to you at Cbeebies.
Scott, yes, the why is so important because we want to really understand, like Scott talked about, the reason why you're coming to potentially Monterey or any other destination so that we can really help best plan your best experience. So as we understand the why, we really get involved almost as an extension of the staff of the organization that we're working with. So that is extremely important for us as the why of why you're planning your meeting. Thank you, Scott.
And then we head to the next W was Scott, what type of event? And specifically, very detailed, not generalized information. What about this, Scott?
Yeah, again, it really foundational kind of information to be able to have as you start to frame a plan for your event. Everything from, what are your start times? What are your, how many meals do you have to serve? Is there a dress code involved? Are people allowed to bring a spouse? All that is going to be driven by your answer to what kind of event are we planning. This could be a private client meeting. This could be a kind of a mixed group meeting or an internal meeting. All that will influence, the future design of your event. So getting to that what is very important. And I know, Charlie, that's also something that helps frame or provide some guidance for you in terms of, okay, how do you provide those services as a CVB?
Again, Scott, absolutely. I mean, the why, the what is, again, extremely important for us as Monterey Convention Visitor Bureau, other bureaus, to really get in depth into the organization to understand what type of meeting. There are all different types of meetings that are out there, that we want to make sure that we provide the best resources to make your experience the experience that you expect, that makes you, yourself and the organization look like a success. So all of this is, again, extremely important for a bureau to best understand the type of meeting, type of event.
And you might think where is pretty obvious, but this one really is more about understanding, what is desired in the venue or the destination, and how do demographics play a part. So what's your thoughts, Scott?
Yeah, again, when I think about the where of an event that we're looking to host, you can break it down into a couple different places. One is kind of the general geographic location, what city or region that you want to go to or that you're looking at, and then but also inside of that is what type of venue. Are you looking at a convention center, a resort, a retreat, a spa, kind of what's the environment specifically at the location that you want to host your event at. And all that kind of really, again, is driven by a number of different things. You've got internal influencers who are, may have a special spot that they like to go to, or we've always done it at the, at the golf course here. Or maybe a sales guy whispering in your ear saying, hey, let's go to Vegas this year, right? And at the same time, you might have finance guys, again, saying, look, let's do it around the corner where we don't have to pay for travel. So you've got a lot of those internal influences that are going to determine the where. Budget is obviously a big factor in that. You can host an event locally for generally a lot less than if you have to, pay for travel expenses to get everybody across the country. And then the facilities that are available in the town that you select. That also is is a big factor for narrowing down on your decisions for where. And that's how we look at it when we look for events where we should host them.
Charlie, what about the number of destinations that a planner should consider initially? I mean, do you need to narrow it down? I mean, sometimes you see RFPs that go out to, 14, 15, 16 destinations, and the workload that can be, encountered by doing that.
Well, it's all important. If a planner or someone who doesn't do this for a living every day is not really sure, the best bet is to work with a convention and visitor bureau, because what we try to do is we try to work with you, sourcing that lead to many of the properties that can handle the size and the look and the want of that particular piece of business. And then what we try to do, and what I would love to do, is then funnel all of the leads or the proposals that come back from those hotel properties or convention center or conference center, and provide you one package so that you have a better understanding of what that destination maybe can handle. You can look at multiple 14 different destinations, but you hope that you can best understand what your type of business is looking for, and then find that venue, a location and destination that can handle your piece of business. So it is all important, but that's why a bureau can really, when I say bureau, a convention and visitor bureau really can handle and help you streamline that process.
Great. And then there's the when, right? And this may seem obvious, being able to identify a set of dates that works for you internally, but Scott, what about looking at flexibility?
Yeah, I mean, this can have a huge impact on ultimately where you end up. Everything from, we typically, for example, we see an increase in events that we plan in the fall and the spring. Summer for us is generally a little bit slower. But you also have to consider things like holidays and other kind of, important dates that are on people's calendars, because they have lives outside of work and the meetings they have to attend. Everything from getting their kids back to school, to elections that they want to be in town to vote for, to and those decisions that you make on dates are also going to impact things like room rate, availability, and flexibility. And I know when we've worked with Cbeebies in the past, we've been really pleased with the help that we've got, because Cbeebies are such a great resource for understanding what conventions are in town, how full are hotels. Are we absolutely crazy to try to even book a hotel this time of year? And I know that that's something that when we work with Cbeebies, we're always have to get that good intel. And I know Charlie does some of that stuff with his organization as well.
Scott, you've teed up that this when so very, very well. The Convention and Visitor Bureau, again, can be your resource to really understand what's happening within our destination. We just got off last week with a large car show. The entire destination was filled with beautiful, very expensive cars that were part of auctions. So that is a time and a date that you do not want to come to probably Monterey or another destination that has maybe a Super Bowl or something else that's going on. So your Convention and Visitor Bureau is your conduit to really understand the destination, understand large events that are happening in the community, and to best try to help you. It's not, at our Bureau, it's not our goal just to bring everything in. I would love to bring everything in, but if it doesn't work on the why, the what, the where, and the when, there's sometimes where I might help you say that our destination is not the best place to go to, but I've got some friends in other locations. So to work with the Convention and Visitor Bureau really can, I believe, be a huge asset for you. So let's go to the who.
All right, Charlie. And the who is really about attendee demographics, about really kind of helping the folks that you reach out to understand who's coming and matching the who to the appeal of the venue or the destination. So how is this information helpful?
Yeah, the who is a funny one, because you have not only a who in terms of the people that are actually going to be at the event, right, the people that have the name badges, but you have external and internal influencers who are also feel like they have a stake in the success of the event. So everything from event leaders and participants to talent and speakers to people writing the checks for the event, they all want to have some sort of say and influence. So I think getting a sense of that kind of global who is really important. And sometimes you have to kind of put on your political cap internally and say, okay, who do I need to bring into the loop here on this discussion about the event? And then the other thing too, when it comes to who is, and I cannot stress this enough, is if you're planning a meeting and you don't do it all the time, you've been handed it for the first time, or taking it over for somebody, it's very, very important to get a good sense of how much authority you're granted to make kind of autonomous decisions. We've been involved in events where it's like, hey, go plan it, tell me where to show up, and I'll be there, down to we now are having conference calls about the color of dinner linens. So if you don't want to get yourself kind of in a bind, really, you might even just have to ask point blank. Ask specifically, what's my authority to make decisions in order to make this event happen?
That's a great point. Charlie, what does a CBB do with all this information? If you investigate and a customer calls you and really details why they're having their event, specifically what type of event it is, their dates, their flexibility, and a demographic of who's attending, that's a lot of work to collect all that information. What are you doing with it?
It's a great question. What we're doing with it is hopefully making it much easier for that person that's planning the meeting is to then source it to our hotels, to our attractions, to our conference center if the conference center is needed. So all of our different partners that we partner with within our community and our destination to find the best set of dates, to find potentially sometimes alternative dates, maybe the set dates that you think you might be able to use we can't handle, but we can suggest some alternative dates, the best potential rates that we can help find for you. And then we're going to gather all this information, and like I said earlier, is to hopefully present you with one package that that can help you make the best decision, if it's you, the independent person making the decision, or a board, and providing all that information. Now, I want to go back to the who for 1 second, if I can. We take it one step forward to what Scott said, and we want to know the attendees that are coming in, because then we can help put together some packages for days that you may not be meeting, or spouses or children, so that we're going to really understand who's coming in and help provide some other things that those folks can see and do separate from the meeting. So all of it is extremely important.
That's a great point. Scott, so we got those 5 W's, kind of that foundational piece out of the way. Now it's kind of time to look at some other, pieces that creep in. And obviously, first is really not heading out until you have a really good idea of your budget parameters. What would you have to say about that?
Yeah, a few things. Probably the most important thing is a term that I learned early on the hard way, this term plus plus, right? You'll hear it when you talk to hotels, catering, other sorts of venues. Plus plus, very important. It means the cost that you've been quoted for that location, that room, that service. Also, service charge, which is 1/2 of the plus, and then the taxes that go on top of that, which is the other half of the plus. So you've got the quoted cost plus plus. And if you don't take into that account, and service charges I've seen them as high as 25%, and taxes, obviously you've got occupancy taxes and various other local taxes. If you don't take that into account, that will burn your budget. It will absolutely burn your budget. So that's a very important thing. And I learned, again, the hard way that, spreadsheets can be your friends. If you have a budget, you start to try to break it up into, you can use Cbeebies to help you get, quotes on this estimated cost for certain things, and start creating, building backwards your budget based on if you have a lump sum. And that to me has been really probably the key learning point as I've kind of, learned how to become a meeting planner over time.
And so not forgetting things like audio-visual expenses and internet and resort fees and even attrition charges. So, Charlie, that kind of brings us to the next slide, which is, what are the red flags? What do you sort of always educate planners about, making sure that they don't overlook?
Well, there's several different things, I think. There are two.
Let me add to that question, because we had a really good question kind of come up from the audience. So in addition, Charlie, to maybe the red flags, maybe, can you kind of talk about how Cbeebies also help low-cost or free venue options for clients that have little or no budgets, or even revenue that will be generated from a meeting? So that's a question one of our attendees had.
I can, and I think it all kind of comes back to, first, any group that we're looking at potentially bringing into our destination, we're going to see if there's a local group associated to that organization. There could be a host group, a host committee. They're the additional expert to the organization that may be coming in. We're a membership bureau. We have the opportunities to work with many of our members to try to make that experience extremely well. Many bureaus, I can tell you from our bureau, we have some dollars that we're able to maybe offset and help depending on the type of business that's coming in to make that experience the best possible experience. I hope that answered the question that Shimo, you just asked. But in addition to that, it's also important, I believe, to work with a convention and visitor bureau, as a destination can be extremely large, is that maybe there's a certain pharmaceutical group that's working and had a meeting at the Hyatt Hotel, and a few miles down the way there's another pharmaceutical group that maybe is competing against one another. Hopefully the Convention and Visitor Bureau has a pulse of a little bit of everything that's happening in the destination, so that we can look for potential red flags or reasons to maybe not have same type of meetings that come into the same destination. That happened to me at a previous bureau that we were able to help a pharmaceutical company, and they postponed their launch of a certain drug to another week or another month. So there's different ways, and again, a convention and visitor bureau really can help look for the best cost opportunities. We have many partners similar selling similar services, but we're going to send that lead to, say, an audiovisual company or an AV company, and that we're going to provide or get proposals, and that we can help present to you potentially the best savings for that need that you may have. Shima, I hope that answers your question.
Great, thank you.
Scott, so this brings us to sort of timeline and having planners really make sure that they communicate not only dates that they would consider in their meeting, but decision-making dates and cutoffs. What would you say to this?
Yeah, I think the catchphrase or the key thing to think about with this is things generally will take longer than you expect them to. So give yourself as much cushion time as you can. Get started early. Contact your CBB. Engage in a discussion about, okay, here's what we're looking to do, and they'll ask you questions. Those W questions to try to drive you towards some decisions, so they can assist you in the way that they're designed to. So I think if you can get a jump on things, it's enormously helpful. And if you do get caught behind the 8 ball, again, CBB is an amazing, kind of resource that they can bring to bear, like on short notice. Look, we understand you're in a jam. Here's some suggestions, some recommendations, and here are some potential providers that we know have availability, because that's what we do. That's what they're there to do. They're there to help you. So don't be afraid to ask for help, whether it's planning a meeting 2 years out, or you've been thrown a meeting and you got to pull it together in 2 weeks.
Absolutely. And Charlie, what about reinventing the wheel? I know that if you're handed a meeting for the first time, what kind of documentation or reports would you guide folks to see if they could get their hands on?
First of all, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. Many meetings are going on in a lot of different locations, and that hopefully the convention and visitor bureaus are here to help you start to finish. But the best information is really to go back to the 5 W's and why you're meeting, all the 5 W's to understand that. But, obviously you're going to understand budget, you're going to understand dates, you're going to understand the number of people that are coming in. And so that if you can put the best RFP together so that the Convention and Visitor Bureau can send that to the hotels have the opportunity of really understanding the business and giving you the best possible rate and proposal. But utilize your Convention and Visitor Bureaus. If you have information about a new piece of business, a new meeting that you're planning, talk to the Convention and Visitor Bureau. We'll walk. I know our bureau will walk through and work with you to best understand that, because if we don't understand that, we can't send it to our hotels in the best possible way to help you get to the next step, which is obviously having and hosting that meeting in hopefully our destination or any other destination out there.
Great, Charlie. And I think we would also advise, planners and non-planners alike to try to grab their previous histories, 2 years if they have it. If they have past banquet orders or invoices or last year's program, those are all great attachments and help, everyone understand the program. So hopefully up to this point we've given you all a little indication of the internal kind of homework that you might need, but also some resources never hurt. So we thought we would provide for you this list, and after the webinar you'll be given a link to actually access this deck, so you don't need to actually write these down. But here's some great resources online if you're looking for a template for a contract, or a template for an Excel spreadsheet to manage your budget, or some of the things that Scott talked about. You would be able to access those through these online resources. So I know we've spent some time already talking about this, but I'd like to just really have the folks online who might not be as familiar with what CBeebies really do, first of all, kind of have Charlie speak to what makes the CBeebie a really great planning partner, especially for someone who doesn't have a full-time planning staff, Charlie?
Well, I can't say it any easier, but we are free. We don't charge any of our planners. We do this at no cost. We gather the information. We listen to you to understand the type of business that you're needing to bring in. We provide many different resources than just what I just talked about, which is sending the lead out to our partners, our hotel partners, our conference center, so on and so forth. But there are other features that we provide as well. Those can be housing, if your group needs housing service, software service, so that you're not in just one hotel, but you're in 4 or more properties, and you want to streamline the process there. We can help you with that. We can help you with registration staffing. We can help with you with visitor desk staffing. If you want someone to man a table at the conference center or at the hotel, we're going to provide brochures and different collateral and maps to help with that as well. We'll also deliver some maps to you in advance or to your attendees if need be. You know, we have a program here called the Meeting Rewards Program. So we work with 2 of our mall areas that we provide discounts for the attendees that come in. We also can help with additional attendance builders. We're going to work with you to get the best number of attendees to attend that conference, because we're going to help you with different activities that maybe folks are going to be interested in. And we also help work with microsites, so that we help make your meeting the meeting, and with all of the different components that we can help you with, and have different drop-downs where the site, it's your site, but it's really working with us and our behind the scenes of our website, so that people really get to better understand our destination. So those are different things that we, as our Convention and Visitor Bureau and many Convention and Visitor Bureaus out there, can help you plan your meeting, and that you're not on your own island. We're here to be an extension of your team to make that experience the best possible experience out there.
And Scott, before we sort of close, I'd like for you to kind of comment on your experience. I know you have worked extensively with Convention and Visitors Bureaus, and just from your own perspective, what are maybe the key sort of benefits or roles that they've extended to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we learned the hard way by not turning to Cbeebies to support early on. I think, basically out of it maybe a little bit of ignorance about, okay, what is this, what support they can provide. But I look at it in a couple different ways. First of all, you've got, when you work with a Convention Visitors Bureau, for me, it gives me an extra level of confidence in understanding, when they return answers to an RFP or provide you with options for providers or hotel destinations in their city or their location. To me, it's a level of comfort saying, look, this is not some company that's on the list. It's probably not a fly-by-night outfit that may not, might have a great website, but might in fact not be able to provide you the services they promised. If they're a member of the CBB, it's likely they're, it's a fee-based or it's some sort of service-based thing. They have a vested interest in performing well, so they can continue to be part of the people who are recommended or suggested by the CBB. Second thing is maybe a little bit more subtle. We found places in cities where we worked with the CBBs that we would have never found on our own. Very cool places that are difficult to find if you're just doing an internet search. And so for us, it's kind of like a little bit of insider intel that we get when we work with the CBB to say, okay, we have some unique people, we have a unique event. How do we create a unique experience? And as the people with eyes on the ground and experience in that location, they are far and above. They're fantastic for giving us some kind of inside intel. Okay, here's a really cool place you may never have found on your own.
Great. I mean, so the ability to feel comfortable or confident in the resources that you've been given, and then also taking that destination expertise and maybe feeling like you find out only what the locals know. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Having to navigate that land, I think you've both made really good points that you really don't have to go it alone, and that we have, a lot of folks that are very, very vetted in helping you find the right answers, and those are the destination experts at our Convention and Visitors Bureaus, and we want to make the planners who are online today understand that empowerMINT.com is, again, a free resource where you could search multiple destinations and submit one RFP. So if you're considering 3 cities simultaneously, you could take care of that pretty easily and pretty quickly and come back and manage a profile and even check your history. If you have a post-event report from a Convention and Visitors Bureau that has been collected in the last 2 years and reported, you'll even be able to access that at empowerMINT. And this is a little screenshot of what your dashboard, your meeting planning profile would look like, and how you could see if you have a history that has been reported, and even request one if it has not. So Shimo, I think I'll turn it back over to you as we close, but before I do, I'd just like to remind those who are interested in receiving CMP credit for today's webinar that you'll get a follow-up email that will serve as your confirmation, or you can also print a certificate if you would like. So Shimo, back to you.
Well, thank you. And we're just a couple of minutes over our 30-minute webinar, and I do want to thank again our sponsor for today, ePro Meetings Apps. And ePro Meetings Apps is a custom mobile app solution for organizations. And I want to publicly thank Tracy Fairman. Tracy, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
To say a few words about ePro Meetings Apps.
And first, I'd like to thank both you, Shimo, and DMAI for the opportunity to sponsor this webinar. One of the things that I do want to mention is, like Cbeebies, we try to make things very easy for you if you do want to incorporate a custom meeting app within any of your meetings and events. Our background is from the hospitality and meetings industry. Everybody within our company comes from that type of background. And we have worked with groups anywhere from 75 attendees all the way up to large citywide. And it's a great way to engage your attendees both before, during, and after your event.
Thank you, Tracy. And you'll receive a little information about e-meeting apps, ePro Meeting Apps, right, in a follow-up email. And then there's been a couple of questions. So for those of you who would like to stay on for a couple of questions, I would like to ask our panelists then, because we had quite a few that has come through. And one of them really has to do with how far out is it that they, or how far out can they begin to plan their meeting? Like, is 3 years too far out to begin looking for a venue? And how far out, Scott, are you planning your meetings?
We try to, for our one large public event that we host, we try to be on more than a 1-year planning cycle. So we can announce, at the previous event where we're going to be the next year. That, for us, that's been sufficient. But obviously, I know larger organizations and companies, they do plan out, pretty far.
And Charlie, is it better to plan further out or shorter term? What's going to give planners the best deal? And is it further out or is it closer in?
It's a great question. I think each destination is going to be a little bit different to that answer to that question. I can tell you that it's always best to try to plan a little bit further out so that you don't have, you're not crunching the last minute to find certain things. There might be things that are sold out, or maybe there's hotels that don't have enough rooms to handle your piece of business at that given time. At the same time, but also to answer your question is, we've experienced 5 to 6 years out is not too far out. In addition to what I was going to say is that also short term, if you have a meeting that just did pop up, don't hesitate to give us a call or think that that meeting can't happen, because that's another great time to work with the Convention and Visitor Bureau to streamline your process, to be your advocate, to be your partner in finding the best location for you, because you can also find potentially some great deals last minute. I'm not suggesting to wait last minute, but we certainly can help you on all of that as well.
And I think that part of it's fair for planners to really just simply ask that question of the Cbeebies is when could they best leverage their meeting? Is it going to be further out or shorter term? So great answer, Charlie. Also, can the Cbeebies help with nearby destinations that necessarily may not be Monterey, but be a local or maybe a nearby smaller destination, Charlie?
It's a great question. First, we would love to always have you in Monterey, but my practice and what I try to do and what we all do here at our bureau is absolutely, we'll point you, help you. I'll make a personal phone call to another destination convention and visitor bureau. Yes, do we all compete against one another? Absolutely, but we're all here to make the experience the best experience for the planner, and that if we have to make that introduction or suggest another location, we're absolutely going to do that. I know that we do it. I know that there's other convention and visitor bureaus that do that. We've got great partnerships around the country, and the short answer is absolutely yes.
And I think that many of the destinations, Charlie, similar to yours, you're handling Monterey County, so it may not be immediately evident all the destinations that you'll actually be servicing.
That's a great question. We don't just handle Monterey. We've got other jurisdictions around our cities within our county. So if you're looking for some of them, Pebble Beach or Carmel or Salinas, we're going to help you in all of those for our Convention and Visitor Bureau. There are other Convention and Visitor Bureaus that handle just their one city. But we're all here, again, we're all here to be the support to our destination, but to other destinations around the country.
And Shimo, I'd like to point out that if a planner heads to empowerMINT.com and looks at destinations, one of the key pieces of information is geographic areas served. So it would tell you under Monterey CVB which geographic areas they serve directly, and then at each destination profile there would be a services checklist, and it would also make planners understand from destination to destination what specific services they provide, and if those services are provided free of charge or based upon the size of the group, or if there is a nominal fee connected.
And real quick, if I can add something real quick, is that if you do attend different trade shows out there, you're starting to see states almost do a larger island booth, and a bunch of different convention and visitor bureaus are in that area. What we're all trying to do is make it easier and find solutions to help you streamline your process. So to the question before is we're already starting to do that.
And one last question, and for those of you that we didn't quite get to your questions, we will answer them individually. But one great question, I think, for the audience is there a meeting too small to involve a Convention and Visitors Bureau? There was mention of 75 attendees for using an application, but Charlie, is there really a meeting that's too small for you to service with your resources?
It's a great question. We don't believe any meeting is too small. We've actually have a new sales position in place that is actually helping smaller meetings. We've got a lot of properties in our destination that are actually ideal and perfect for smaller groups, anyone from 5, 10 to 30 rooms. Or attendees, and that we don't believe that there's any a group that's too small. We're here to service the small groups. We're here to service the large groups and help you as the meeting planner or someone that's planning a meeting that maybe doesn't have that title to best find the best solution for you.
Well, again, thank you very, very much for sharing your expertise, both Scott and Charlie. Again, for those of you, we'll be able to make sure we get an answer to your questions directly. But be on the lookout for our follow-up email after this webinar over the next couple of days, because we'll be sending you a replay of this if you wanted to share it with some of your colleagues. and more information on ePro meeting desk. Again, thank you for their sponsorship and for those of you who joined us today.